Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so Mike King, it's Men's Health Week, and we'll have a chat to Mike King shortly. We're diving into key topics that men don't talk about enough: mental health, lifestyle habits, and sexual health. And we can't offer medical advice. We've said that all week, and the views shared today are those of our guests. And if you've got personal health questions, please speak with your doctor or pharmacist or sort of someone professional. Joining us today, we're going to talk about mental health and how it affects people and what might be the problem. Today is Mike King, a long-time mental health advocate. He's here to talk about the issue. Mike, g'day, mate. Nice to see you.
Always great to be here, brother.
Hey, you're looking well. Hey, what motivated you to begin? To take yourself back, what motivated you to begin advocating for things like mental health? You know, particularly around what you've talked about so much around anxiety and depression. What was it?
Well, I guess, mainly it was because no one was calling in when I was hosting a radio live show. And, you know, I was regurgitating all the same stories as everybody else, and no one was calling in, and I was lying to everyone and saying, hey, you know, I've got lots of calls on the line, but I'm going to go to a break now, 0800 73 465, 0800 Radio Live, blah, blah, blah. No one rang in, so my inner critic was smashing me, saying, just start swearing to all of these things, and I just fessed up, I guess, and started saying, you know, if no one rings in, there's no one on the line. If no one rings in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to start talking to the voices in my head, and that's what I did. And all of a sudden, people rang up, and I just found that by sharing my story, it helped me. It was like getting that huge monkey off my back, the thing that I was so scared that other people would see. Just by talking about it made me feel good about myself. What I didn't realize was the impact that it was having on other people and allowing them to share their journey. So, you know, everyone thinks that I do this to help other people, but here we are, 13, 14 years on, and I still do it for the same reason, because it helps me.
Yeah.
You know, if I put that mask back on, bad things start to happen. So, you know, I start to internalize, I start to self-doubt. So, yeah, I do it for me, brother.
You were honest, Dave. So what you found was when you had no callers there, you just need to be honest and say, this is a struggle. Help me out, please.
My biggest fear my whole life was that people were going to find out that I was riddled with self-doubt. I wasn't this because remember back in those days, Duncan, I was, you know, Mr. Politically Incorrect. It was up everybody. You know, I'd be on the radio talking to Martin Devlin going, hey, Poofda, you know, like this person that hated political correctness and was railing against the woke society. And, you know, once I started sharing my story, the first time I shared it with a bunch of kids, and I didn't realize the impact that my language was having until, you know, a young suicidal Māori boy up in Northland said, you know, I said, why do you want to kill yourself? You know, he goes, well, first off, I'm gay. And me being me and an idiot, I went, well, wrestling with your sexuality. He goes, I'm fine with my sexuality. I said, okay, so what's the problem? He goes, every time I hear the word faggot, homo, poofda, gay boy, even from my friends who I know are joking and love me, I think, is this how society sees me? And if it is, what's the point? And that really hit home with me. And that was the first stage where I said, all right, I've got to really get out of this stand-up comedy game. I've got to get out of these, the destructive path I was on, and really change who I am and how I speak and change my actions, stop telling people what to do and show people, you know. And in the beginning, Duncan, no one believed me. You know, everyone thought I was, you know, scamming. Even one of the counselors, one of the first counselors that did the Nutters Club with me back then, he said the only reason I came on was because I thought you were full of shit and you were working a scam, and I wanted to know what it was.
Wow.
And, I came back and I said, so what do you think now? He goes, no, you're the genuine article, which surprised me. So,
Yeah, it's pretty
but
powerful.
again, it's not about helping other people. That's a byproduct of helping myself.
Yeah, that's powerful. But with your from what you do now, Mike, all your work and conversations, what do you think the common misconceptions people have are about the conditions like anxiety? What do the people get wrong?
Well, people think that it's a new phenomena.
Yeah.
People think that this is just a new thing from a woke, weak society that, can't handle the pressures that we were under in our day. And it's that attitude that is making it really hard for people to come forward. I mean, and that was always my big issue, was what other people think. We spend so much time worrying about what other people think about us rather than enveloping who we are and not being shy to express who we are. We need to understand that vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. And, an example I often use to people is vulnerability is exposing yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
to situations that can, that can have a devastating effect on you. For example, we all look at Willie Apiata when he jumped out of that foxhole and went and saved those two soldiers, and as an act of bravery. It was the ultimate act of vulnerability.
Yeah.
He put himself out there, at serious risk of physical and mental harm, that he is still dealing with today. So, he was at his most vulnerable then. He was at his scaredest, but he took the step. And that's how we need to reframe mental health. It is an act of bravery.
Whenever, and in this role, you speak a lot to people and, about yourself and about situations that you're in. I reckon that whenever I've presented and things have been a bit ropey and I've been as vulnerable as I've ever been, I reckon that's when I've had the most understanding from people and the best buy-in, by just being genuine. But you can't hide it anymore. This is what's happening to me. People
feel safe.
People feel like these just like me.
By you sharing that, they suddenly feel safe. It's not it's like that old analogy at the gym where you go to the gym and you think everyone's looking at you. No one's looking at you. They're looking at themselves. They're reflections of themselves. So to be able to share, suddenly you're opening up. You've become a safe haven where someone can maybe discuss what's going on with them and recognize, hey, I'm normal. I always say to people, anyone who describes himself as normal, and who has no problems, they're the ones that need counselling.
Yeah.
Because there are more of us than there are of them.
Yeah. What do you reckon are the most common challenges that for people with issues like this? What are the most common challenges that they come up against, do you reckon?
The biggest battle everyone faces is a battle with themselves. The biggest bully in everyone's life is themselves. The biggest bully in my life was always with myself. So, imposter syndrome, and self-doubt, that's the biggest issue we all have. It's not about what other people can do, and looking for outside validation and outside help. It's how we see ourselves. And am I worthy and am I good enough? And, you're always going to come up against barriers. You're always going to come up with a vocal minority who want to shout you down. And the reason they want to shout you down is because they fear that you might be successful and they might be wrong. And they fear that if you had the strength to change, why didn't they? So, stop worrying about what other people think about you, and worry about how you see yourself. And don't get me wrong, when you get to that stage, you still hurt when you get criticized, and you still hurt, and it's with deep shame and anger when people say stuff. But it gets easier, and you can manage it better, and you feel better about yourself when you don't react.
Have you come across, when you talk about, other people's support or whatever, what's the best thing people can do for people that are suffering anxiety? What have you come across anything that works? Other people have said to you, or their support structures, or anything they've done, their routines or whatever that seem to make a positive difference?
Get out and face your fear.
Yeah.
What happens when you're anxious? You end up internalizing everything, so it becomes true. It's really interesting. It's the amygdala, right? That's our fight, flight,
Yep.
freeze response system,
Yep.
right? It's been there for the whole of mankind. It keeps us safe. If we didn't have that, our ancestors would have walked up to dinosaurs and go, "Oh, what the hell happened to my arm?" It keeps us safe. But we are living in a world now where we've removed most of the danger from life, right? We've moved most of the danger from life. Yet the amygdala still has to hunt for danger, but now it's finding danger in shadows.
Yeah.
It's finding danger in looks that other people are giving them, and it's sending us warning signals 24/7. So it's just we need to get out. Some days I lie in bed. Today, I had a shit day yesterday and was about to have a shit day today, and just decided to get out of bed and come to work. And I was surprised at, how good I felt just being able to get out. I went for a walk down the road and Dominion Road there. Just get out and realize danger's not everywhere.
Yeah, I reckon that's
The
crucial.
world's not going to end in a day.
Get off the social media, get off those websites, hop outside, feel the breeze, have a bit of sun, have some exercise. I reckon that's some of the best medicine. It's so simple, I know, but
Best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Is I've abandoned social media.
Yeah, I ditched it
I
too.
don't follow social. You know what I do? Like, the only social media I follow is TikTok. You want to know why? Because I can tell TikTok what to show me.
Yeah.
It shows me golf videos and comedy. That's all I want. Golf videos and comedy.
Yeah.
That's all it shows me. I don't read comments because there isn't. I'm just watching videos.
Yeah.
Short videos.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, I have someone else post that shit for me. I don't bother with it.
Yeah, I'm the same as you.
Such a microcosm of society. My wife said to me once, "There's 154 comments and people are hating on you." But when I went and had a look, there were 6 people repeating everything that they were saying. It was just a waste of time.
When you're overwhelmed, Mike. When you're sort of at that point. Do you have go-tos like routines or outlets or spaces that work? You could recommend.
Well, the first thing I have to do is I tell my family, tell my wife, because there's only one thing worse than having a mental health problem. It's living with someone with a mental health problem who's not talking about it. So as soon as she knows already, but just the acknowledgement from me that I'm struggling and I'm having an issue, it helps them breathe a sigh of relief and not walk on eggshells anymore. So again, I guess, and I've just realized this just by talking to you, it's mental health is about being honest with yourself.
Yeah. You said it right at the start.
Foremost.
Yeah.
And not expecting everyone else to come to your pity party. It's about acknowledging, oh, I've got the issue. It's me. What can I do first? Well, the first thing I can do is I can tell the people I care about most in the world what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Because they'll be worrying that they've done something wrong.
Yeah.
My kids, if I don't tell them why I'm upset, they'll make it about themselves. So, I think, just wish people would be more honest with their feelings. We're busy telling our kids what to do, and instead of showing them what to do, for me, for you, we're Mount Everest for our kids, right? They want to be up where we are, they want to be as good as us. But if we're constantly telling them about our achievements and constantly berating them for their lack of effort, all we are saying is you are never going to be as good. We need to lift our kids up.
Yeah, I hear you.
How do we do that? We need to talk about our struggles. We've got schools now trying to teach kids about mental health. Kids don't need to learn about mental health. They need to learn that they are normal. They need to learn that the struggles they're going through are the same struggles we continue to go through ourselves.
Yeah.
Stop telling me what to do. Show me. Don't tell me, show me. And that should be everyone's motto. If you come home from work, your kid knows when you're upset, but if you don't talk about it, he's going to think it's him. Oh,
Yeah.
what did you do to
They
Dad? He's
go on
always
edge.
upset. Talk, man.
Yeah.
Hey, son, hey, Dad, how was your day? I had a terrible day, son, but, what is it about you? You can always spot when I've had a bad day. I yelled at my boss today and I'm I feel bad. Come here, give me a hug. The boost that gives your kid, because it's not about them anymore. I helped my dad. And if you want to take some advice, Duncan, you want to take some advice from your kid, what would you have done in that situation, son?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great advice. I'm going to try that tomorrow. And when you get home, you go, Dad, how was your day? Oh, my day was great. I took your advice.
You know what? I tried this technique because I was trying to get through to my son. So I'd pick him up from school and I'd say, hop in the car, and I'd say to him, for the next 10 minutes, you talk to me about anything. I'm not going to say one word in 10 minutes. So you can be guaranteed that I won't pass judgment or say anything. First day, he laughed at me. He thought I was an absolute knob. Second day, he still laughed at me, said a few words. By the end of the week, I sat there for 10 minutes listening. And it's been extraordinary. It works.
My little girl was like that. My little girl was always worried about, saying things in front of me because I'd upset. When she was 7 years old, I go, know any bad words? She goes, yeah. I go, say them. Oh, I'm not going to say them. I don't say bad words. Just say them. What's the word? What's the worst word that you know? I can't, Mummy, you know, it's our secret. I don't just say whatever. MF. I was like, whoa, what else? Seed. And she just said all of these words, I was like, rightio, you're not, you're not in trouble. And all of a sudden, it was just sort of broke down a wall.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she felt like she could talk to me about stuff. There was nothing taboo. So it's exactly the same as what you did. And it's extraordinary, right?
Yeah, it works.
How good did you feel when your son talks to you? How good do you feel about yourself?
Well, by the end of the week, I felt all empowered and I was saying nothing. How's that?
That's right.
All empowered and saying nothing. Mike, over the time, there has been shifts in perspective and people now understand it a bit more, mental health, a little bit more understanding. So how things like, self-care or small shifts in those perspectives help people feel more supported, do you reckon, during the really difficult times? Do you think there's greater understanding?
Well, I think there's greater knowledge that we're not alone on this road. Whereas before it was all hidden behind a mask. I mean, you remember when you were growing up as a kid and some of the stuff that went on in your house and the neighbor's house that you didn't understand at the time, but you look back now and you go, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's clear,
right? So much going, well, because it was all masked up then.
Yeah.
And I think the mask is slowly coming off. And, just by the fact that, that young people requiring help via Gumboot Friday has stopped climbing. It's still there. Well, it's still incrementally climbing, but not at that huge rate that it was before. So there is a greater understanding, and it is having an effect. The fact that you can voluntarily get counselling before there's a crisis rather than waiting to be diagnosed mentally ill, has, particularly in our young ones, has really helped validate who we all are as young people. And some of the data that we're getting back from our kids is extraordinary. Like, so if mental health was a cake, the bottom tier is anxiety. Tier number 2, depression. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? If you're anxious long enough, you get depressed. The third tier is stress. And stress of circumstances, stress of age, stress of expectations. Stress is the third tier. The most interesting tier. Now, these bottom 3 tiers require a generational shift.
Yeah.
They're going to require, time. The fourth tier is all the problems. They're all cupcakes. Drugs, alcohol, we've got vaping, we've got cigarettes.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with those is we focus on those cupcakes. Why? Because we can half a cupcake in a term of government. while we were in government,
Yeah.
we halved the rate of smoking. No,
Yeah.
you halved a cupcake.
Yeah.
You haven't fixed anything. So, if we all focus on anxiety and what's causing anxiety, not only among our kids but among ourselves, and talk about what is anxiety and what it is to all of us, and what are the triggers, and everyone go, oh shit, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm no longer anxious about this stuff. But again, it requires vulnerability. It requires self-reflection. It requires us all to open up and be who we really are.
Yeah, and be present for those people around them. So if you're a friend, be present. Yeah, be there.
Yep. Best advice I can give anyone: don't offer up any information when someone's talking. Just listen.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. And if they ask you a question, then you talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise,
Shut
it's
up.
okay to say, look, I don't know the solution to this, but if you want some help, I can come with you and we can go together to find it.
Yeah, it's good advice. Mike, awesome, mate. Mean catch up. You're in a
Love
good
you, brother.
space. Yeah, you too, brother. Hey, thanks for your support, eh? And thanks for chatting.
Keep at it.
Yeah, mate. Be in
Keep
touch, eh?
grinding, brother.
There's no other way. Cheers, mate.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.